His kiss was authoritative, his hands steady as they ripped the straps of my dress, allowing it to cascade down. And my husband sat next to me, watching with great excitement. In an instant, I found myself bare before him, vulnerable in ways I hadn't experienced in years. Welcome to Hidden Love Stories, the place to store emotional love stories. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. Wishing you enjoyable, relaxing moments. Thank you. Very well, let us move forward. He desired for me to share my bed with another man, not merely an ordinary man, a black man, and not merely to share a bed with him, but to invite my husband to observe as well. I am Emily, now 68, reflecting on that summer when I was 38, residing in a seemingly flawless house nestled in the suburbs of Houston. The memories do not simply fade with time. Rather, they sharpen, slicing deeper with each passing year. In the stillness of the early hours, when sleep often evades me, I can still sense the heavy burden of that choice resting upon my chest. My arthritic fingers glide over the creases of my face, and I ponder whether these lines were etched by the passage of time or the weight of remorse. Decisions driven by fervor etch marks that the passage of time cannot erase. This is my revelation, a narrative of warning, a tale of how the relentless pursuit of thrill can ultimately lead to a profound sense of emptiness, resonating through the corridors of time. I had spent almost 15 years with David by that point. We had crafted what many referred to as the good life, steady, cozy, and secure. Maybe a bit too cautious, like a museum showcasing our marriage behind glass. David was a software engineer, perpetually assessing, perpetually pondering. A man who regarded passion as a puzzle to be unraveled. Once, I was an elementary school teacher, but now I find myself a stay-at-home wife. My role transformed as our daughter has ventured off to college. The stillness of our vacant home formed a reverberating space, allowing my own unfulfilled longings to softly call out to me in return. It began with a simple exchange, a gentle murmur of dreams and desires, weaving tales of threesomes, of David observing as I explored intimacy with another. I would press my lips to his neck, roll my eyes playfully, and brush these off as mere games of the bedroom. Yet as weeks morphed into months, his tone began to evolve. The dream transformed into a quest. He repeatedly brought up Ethan. They claimed to have crossed paths at the gym. Ethan was described as different, a term laden with unvoiced assurances. David portrayed Ethan as exuding confidence, commanding, harboring a raw essence that my husband confessed he did not possess. He could offer you what I never could, David murmured one night, his fingers dancing lightly over my bare shoulder. It concerns your liberation, Emily, concerning the emotions I wish to share, yet cannot fully express to you. I found it hard to trust his words. It was on that fateful evening at the restaurant, as David settled the bill, that he revealed Ethan was waiting upstairs, that all had been meticulously orchestrated. The fact that Ethan had consented to accompany me made the ascent in the elevator stretch on indefinitely. I gazed at my reflection in the mirrored walls, lipstick flawlessly applied, hair meticulously curled, eyes wide with a fear that barely concealed the curiosity lurking beneath. My heart cried out, urging me to flee. My body pleaded for me to remain. Before David could even raise his hand to knock, the door swung open. Ethan stood there, bare-chested, exuding strength, his torso a tapestry of ink and chiseled form. He gazed into my eyes, a smile playing on his lips that seemed to assert possession. Even before I had the chance to agree, "If you want me to stop, just say the word," he whispered against my ear, his hand already resting on my hip. "Otherwise, you are mine for the evening." I ought to have turned and left. One ought to have recalled our promises, our shared past, our so-called affection. Instead, I yielded to the moment that would ultimately dismantle everything. His kiss was authoritative, his hands steady as they ripped the straps of my dress, allowing it to cascade down. In an instant, I found myself bare before him, vulnerable in ways I hadn't experienced in years. David perched quietly in the corner armchair, his gaze fixed with intrigue, as Ethan effortlessly lifted me, as if I were a mere feather. As Ethan shed his garments, the very fabric of my reality shifted beneath me. My husband observed as another man took possession of me, each movement a forceful caress, until I was adrift, unmoored from time, space, and fidelity. I recalled David pressing his lips to my forehead afterward, murmuring his gratitude, as if I had bestowed upon him a treasure instead of shattering something hallowed. I glanced at Ethan, his smile radiating satisfaction, and in that instant, I realized my life was on the brink of a profound transformation, dividing it into a distinct before and after. The dawn arrived, laden with anguish, physical, emotional, and spiritual. My body throbbed in neglected corners. My conscience felt as heavy as a boulder. David lay beside me, serene and satisfied, as my thoughts wandered through each memory shared with Ethan. Each caress stirred a deep, instinctual response within me. Each sensation enveloped me, awakening a profound sense of aliveness that I had not experienced in years. For a time, we engaged in a delightful game of house. We acted as if we were merely an ordinary couple, yet the truth lingered in the air. I had been consumed, conquered, released from constraints, and with all my heart, I yearned for something greater. A week later, David brought up that Ethan was eager to meet with me once more. I pretended to hesitate, though my heart raced with eager anticipation. We gathered at an Airbnb the subsequent Saturday, where pristine sheets lay invitingly. Scented candles flickered softly, and there was David in the corner, wine glass in hand, observing the scene unfold. Ethan entered the room, his presence undeniable, even in silence. This moment unfolded in a way that felt distinct, unhurried, profound, and profoundly personal. He savored the moment of undressing me, his lips tracing every inch of my skin, as though he were committing a map to memory. He leaned me over the couch, arranging me with meticulous care, and possessed me with a certainty that left my knees weak. I noticed the shift in David's expression. The thrill in his gaze now mingled with a shadow of something more ominous. A deep ache lingers, yet I found myself indifferent to it all. My body had ceased to be a part of my marriage. It was a possession of the moment, entwined with the forbidden, and intimately linked to Ethan. As it concluded, I found myself quaking on the ground. Ethan drew me close, his arms enveloping me as he caressed my hair with a surprising gentleness. David drew near, pressing his lips to my forehead, the touch lingering more than it had in the past. "He evokes emotions in you that I never managed to, doesn't he?" David murmured softly. My silence spoke volumes. Following that night, the floodgates opened. Ethan initiated direct communication with me through text, innocuous exchanges that hinted at deeper longings beneath the surface. In the stillness of the night, I found myself replying, concealed within the confines of bathrooms, my heart pounding, fingers drifting aimlessly. The addiction gripped me, infiltrating my thoughts amidst dinner conversations, during church services, and in every fleeting moment shared with David. Then arrived the message that would seal our fate. "Are you interested in seeing me without David around?" I gazed at those words for what felt like an eternity, my finger poised delicately above the screen. In that moment, my fingers danced across the keyboard, crafting the two letters that would ultimately lead to my downfall. Indeed, our paths crossed at a hotel nestled on the fringes of town, without artifice, devoid of sentiment, only an unrefined, perilous craving. He thrust me against the wall as soon as I stepped inside, kissing me as if he possessed the very essence of my breath. This time, there was no gradual allure. It was an unadulterated primal urge that had me calling out for him, while the image of my husband's face faded into the background of my mind. Upon my arrival, I found David engrossed in a television show, inquiring about the details of my shopping excursion. I averted my gaze, unable to confront the intensity of his stare. The shower that night was scalding hot as I attempted to cleanse myself of the traces of my betrayal. Yet the weight of it lingered, already sold to the shadows. Ethan had left an imprint on me that David could never reach. David began to observe the transformations unfolding around him. My wandering thoughts amidst discussions, the space I occupy in slumber, the manner in which I scrutinized my phone. Yearning for a sense of connection. It seems you're developing feelings for him, aren't you? At long last, he posed the question one evening. "I'm uncertain," I murmured, caught in the web of honesty, yet paralyzed by the fear of revelation. For the first time, David turned away without pressing his lips to my forehead. A profound change had occurred between us, and we were both acutely aware of it. My encounters with Ethan became increasingly regular, ceased to share with David. The burden of guilt that once weighed heavily upon me slowly morphed into a thrilling sense of exhilaration. Ethan stirred within me a long-sleeping force, a primal energy, a sensuality I had yet to discover. "I could take you away if I wanted to," Ethan murmured one night as I lay bare in his bed. I chuckled, yet the reality loomed weighty in the space that separated us. A fragment of my being yearned for abduction, to break free from the stifling idealism of my suburban existence. Even in David's touch, it was Ethan I sensed. As David's gentle kiss lingered on my lips, a yearning for Ethan's passionate embrace surged within me. Each tender touch from my husband only emphasized the untamed passion I had found in the embrace of another man. As the weeks unfolded, the rhythm of my double life settled into a familiar cadence. David feigned indifference, perhaps in the hope that I would eventually grow weary of our little charade. Yet I refrained. I delved further into the entanglement, slipping away while David slumbered, conjuring up justifications, existing solely for the fleeting instances with Ethan. Then arrived the night that transformed everything, with Ethan standing at our door, welcomed by David. My hands quivered with anticipation as I poured the wine, fully aware of the unfolding events. David had not merely lost control, he had relinquished it entirely. After dinner, David reclined on our couch, the very one where we had woven our lives together, and uttered words that continue to linger in my mind. I want to watch again. Yet on this occasion, I yearn to witness the extent of your limits. His tone was devoid of emotion, almost surgical. With the weight of a crumbling union heavy in the air, Ethan grasped my hand and guided me up the stairs, a silent witness to the end of something once cherished. I cast a glance back at David, who acknowledged me with vacant eyes. That night was brutal. Ethan ventured into realms I had yet to discover. They hurled insults that ought to have stung, yet instead, they ignited a fire within me, utilized my body as if it were his own. As David lingered in the shadows, a glass of wine cradled in his hand, his gaze turned increasingly frigid with every sigh that slipped past my lips. "Observe her," Ethan instructed David at one moment. "Observe her true desires." David's expression stayed neutral, yet a flicker of something extinguished in his gaze. At that instant, I witnessed the moment unfold, akin to observing a candle extinguished in an instant. 15 years of trust snuffed out in an instant. Yet I found myself unable to cease, refused to cease. The ecstasy had morphed into an addiction, and I had drifted so far into its embrace that the essence of clarity was but a distant memory. I recall glimpsing my reflection in the mirror opposite our bed, cheeks flushed, eyes brimming with a wild abandon, hair clinging to my sweat-dampened skin. The woman gazing back at me was almost unrecognizable. She appeared as if under a spell, utterly changed. In that fleeting moment of insight, I pondered whether this unfamiliar figure in the mirror was the essence of who I had always been, hidden beneath the facade of respectability, beneath the guise of the devoted wife. As the moment came to a close, with Ethan having reached his conclusion within me, I found myself breathless on the matrimonial bed we had selected together at Macy's a decade and a half ago. It was then that David made his approach. He pressed his lips to my forehead one final time, yet his gaze was filled solely with resentment. His lips brushed against my skin, icy and detached, reminiscent of bidding farewell to something that had already slipped away. The ensuing weeks unfolded like a gradual demise. David hardly uttered a word, scarcely made contact with me. Our once vibrant marriage has dwindled to quiet dinners and solitary nights apart. At times, I would find him gazing at me, his eyes filled with a deep sorrow that struck me to my core. "I provided you with what you desired," he finally spoke one evening after yet another dinner filled with silence. "Yet at this moment, your presence is a constant reminder of him." I remained silent. What argument might I present in my favor? "You're no longer mine," he pressed on, his voice trembling. "Perhaps I bear some responsibility for that. Perhaps I shattered what we had." As dawn broke, I found myself in a silent house, accompanied only by a letter. David had vanished. Keep it simple. There are no opportunities for redemption, merely the silent exit of a man who had wagered his marriage and forfeited it all. Ethan lingered for some time, yet everything felt different. In David's absence, the exhilarating allure faded into nothingness. I started to perceive Ethan for his true essence, not as a savior or a romantic hero, but as a man who reveled in power and the allure of the forbidden. As the final whistle blew, his enthusiasm faded away. In time, the calls ceased. The words vanished into thin air. In an instant, solitude enveloped me, without a husband, without a lover, merely a vacant dwelling, haunted by the specters of my own creation. Now, years have passed. and there are moments when individuals inquire if I harbor any regrets about it. On those rare luminous days, I find the strength to refuse, for in that fleeting, intense instant, I felt undeniably alive. Yet in the sincere shadows of restless nights, David's voice lingers in my mind. I cannot gaze upon you without his presence overshadowing us. He promised me liberation, believing it would draw us nearer together. Instead, it ignited a blaze that consumed all we had crafted together, leaving me here now, not a spouse, not a lover, merely a woman in her twilight years who dared to soar near the sun, only to witness her entire existence crumble into nothingness. The solitude that envelops these later years is the cost I bear for those fleeting moments of bliss. The vacant chair facing me at the dinner table, the chill of sheets untouched by another's warmth, the stillness of holidays. These embody the profound repercussions of unbridled longing. My daughter comes by from time to time, accompanied by my grandchildren, who affectionately call me Grandma while regarding me with a sense of wonder. There lingers an unsettling feeling regarding the tale of Grandpa's absence. Children possess an uncanny ability to sense when adults conceal the truth. My daughter has never inquired outright about the events that transpired between us. Yet there are moments when she believes I am unaware, and I find her gazing at my face as if she is piecing together the fragments of a riddle that remains unsolved. In my 50s, I ventured into the world of dating once more, even entering into a brief marriage at 62 with a gentle widower who sought companionship over fervor. Yet I found myself unable to maintain it. The specter of my past, of the person I once was, perpetually lingered in the space that separated us. After 18 months, we parted ways on good terms. He was worthy of a love that could offer him an entire heart, not the fragmented remnants I had to offer. At times, I find myself pondering the fate of David. Did he discover joy? Did he reconstruct his existence alongside someone who appreciated the gifts he brought to the table? Over the years, I have composed countless letters, apologies, explanations, and heartfelt pleas for understanding. But not a single one has ever been dispatched. What authority do I possess to disturb the tranquility he may have discovered? And what of Ethan? He slipped away from my existence as swiftly as he had arrived. Once, about 5 years after everything unraveled, I found myself searching for him, propelled by a misguided belief that maybe, just maybe, there had been something genuine between us. I found out he had shifted his affections to yet another married woman, entangled with another husband who desired to observe. We existed solely as figures in his endless performance. If you find yourself perusing these words, you might be at a comparable juncture in your journey. Keep in mind that fervor ignites with intensity, yet fades quickly, whereas remorse lingers endlessly. What may seem like liberation in the present can transform into a confinement that lasts for years ahead. Did David err in sharing me? Did I err in my desire for something greater? The solutions elude simplicity, yet the result was nothing short of catastrophic. There are certain boundaries that, once traversed, remain forever altered. Some wounds, regardless of the passage of time, remain forever unhealed. I observe women of my generation, encircled by their partners of 4 or 5 decades. I observe their easy silences, their shared humor, the manner in which they instinctively fulfill one another's needs without uttering a single word. I observe them clasp arthritic hands in the sterile confines of doctors' waiting rooms, confronting the specter of mortality side by side. That might have been our fate, David and I, aging side by side, navigating the dusk of life with the warmth of our intertwined past. Instead, I confront them in solitude, armed only with memories that twist like blades in the darkness. Such is the reality of desire. It offers all, seizes what it craves, and ultimately leaves you grasping nothing but recollections that slice deeper with each passing year. At 68, I have come to understand that the most perilous phrase in any tongue is simply this, just this once. For what begins as once can transform into twice, then evolve into always, and ultimately become forever, and merely is never merely anything at all.